All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming. My name's Lyle. I work at Google and I work in our sell-side monetization, ads monetization team. The presentation I'm giving you today is on effective monetization solutions for gaming apps and web. Now I know at least one of you here, but a few others of you I don't know, I haven't met before. So let me know a little bit about yourselves and just your experience in terms of apps and web. Can I get a sense who already runs an app, a gaming app in their business already? Okay, cool. So that's a couple of you. That's free. Okay. So, and who already runs H5 gaming? Nope. Okay, great. That's good. So I'll know to go into the detail of that one. And then finally, who's already monetizing their gaming apps? That's one at least. Great. Okay, cool. Thanks. That's really helpful. That helps me understand exactly where I should speed up or slow down. So I'll get started. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to my team at Google, give you a sense of what we do and I guess how we're separate to the rest of Google that you would know about. Secondly, we'll give you an overview of gaming apps in the market, especially looking at 2024 trends. Third, I'll jump into Admob, which is our app monetization platform. And then finally, I'll jump into H5 games through both AdSense and Ad Manager. So kicking off, an introduction to Google's sell-side monetization, which is the team that I work in. Now, clearly you'd know Sundar Pichai. He's the CEO of Google, and his mission and the mission of Google and Alphabet more generally is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. The VP who looks after my organization, his name's Scott Sheffer, and his mission and the mission for our team more generally is to fund the world's information by enabling digital platforms, properties, and content creators. So what that means, another way of saying that is we provide the revenue streams to your businesses so that you can maintain those businesses, make them profitable, and help them to grow. On the other side here, we've got some examples of some of the partners we work with. We do work globally with partners across TV, web, app, and almost any other platform you can think of. And there are some examples. Essentially, we will partner with just about anyone and everyone. While we're not a solution provider for every aspect of their business, we find there's always some way we can support their growth. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the platforms that we have. We do have a number of platforms. I'll talk about what they do and the distinction between them and when you might be interested in using one or the other. So firstly, AdSense. That's probably the most well-known platform that we have. Now, AdSense is really great if you've got a website, you're not a huge business, you don't have your own sales team, for example. You just want an easy way to monetize your inventory on your website. That'd be a great way for that. All of our search clients who have search on their site, they all use AdSense. Admob now is slightly different. Now, this is essentially the plug and play, please come in. The plug and play version of AdSense for apps. Now, Admob will essentially help you monetize your app the same way AdSense helps you monetize your web inventory. A similar kind of scenario where if you don't have your own sales team, but you've got great content in your app and you've got a lot of users you want to monetize, this would be the one for you. It's a kind of plug and play solution. Thirdly, we have Ad Manager. Now, Ad Manager is slightly different. It does allow you to monetize both web and app, similar to AdSense and similar to Admob. It also allows you to monetize video inventory that you may have. One of the clear distinctions between, I would say, Ad Manager and maybe AdSense or Admob, come in, AdSense or Admob is it's also really useful if you have your own sales team. So if you do have a sales team or you want to connect to different demand suppliers, Ad Manager is definitely the way to go. So that's a high-level overview of the different platforms that we have. And now just jumping into an overview of the gaming apps market in 2024. So First, I think the first key takeaway we had when we looked at the trends for 2024 is that the global gaming market is maturing. Okay, total hours spent were up from 2023. So we can see there 7.9%, almost 8% year-on-year growth in terms of the total hours spent in gaming apps. And that's a lot of hours per person on Earth in 2024. The total sessions went up to 3.5 trillion. And again, that's pretty significant growth. We're talking about 12% growth year on year. Now, what that means is 1.2 sessions per day per person on Earth in 2024. Of course, we know that's an average. Some people will spend significantly more time than that, more sessions than that, and some people will have none. But that's the average. The one statistic that came down last year was new app downloads. So they dropped to 49 billion, still a pretty moderate number, pretty great number. But there was a drop of 6.6% year on year. That's across both iOS and Google Play. But that still represented 94,000 games downloaded per minute in 2024. But we do see that maturation. So what the takeaway for us is, and the takeaway for I think anyone with a gaming app is, it's really about user retention now. Users aren't going out and looking for a lot of gaming apps to download. They're finding a few that they like, those quality apps, and when you can really engage those users, they will stay with you for much longer than they have in previous years, right? So less apps, but more time on those specific apps. Now, just jump into subgenre trends as well. You can see there's quite a big list there. You might be able to find the genre that your game falls into. But the top ones there were arcade, platformer, and simulation subgenres. They had the largest growth, 2024 year on year from 2023. And you can see up the top, arcade, platformer, runner was 8.34% year on year growth, which is pretty significant. But we did see growth through all these subgenres, right? So we definitely saw a great mix and a diverse mix of genres, showing that the whole market is relatively healthy. So I'll jump to the next slide there. And one of the key things that we saw and we continue to see and we continue to project is that mobile apps revenue continues to grow. So apps revenue is set for nearly 600 billion this year. 82% of that is from ads. So the key message here being, if you do have a gaming app, the most common way to make the majority of your revenue is through ads. We can see we started from what I would say is a probably fairly modest 100 billion or so in 2018 on this graph. And the projection is that we're over 400, we're up to 600 billion in total, and around 400, I'd say 420 billion of that is purely ads, okay, from in 2027 as we project. Now, again, thinking about ads, obviously, if you are a gaming creator, if this is your baby, this is something you've really been thinking about for a long time, you spend a lot of time on it, it's a love craft for you. Ads is probably not the first thing you think of, but think about this as a way to connect with your audience. This is a great stat here that I use quite frequently. 78% of US consumers would prefer to be served more ads rather than pay to access websites or apps, okay? So they are much more likely, in general, people are much more likely to pick up your gaming app and play it if it's free with ads than if they have to pay for it with no ads. Okay, that's a key takeaway there. And as I said, top brands worldwide, the top brands that we work with do rely on digital ads to grow their businesses and monetize more users. Okay. So I'm going to jump into the app platform that I mentioned initially, which is Admob. That's our app monetization platform. And first, start with a little analogy. So our way of thinking about this is, let's imagine that you're driving some really top quality, important cargo, and that cargo for you would be ad impressions and user attention. And you're taking along this journey, and your endpoint is maximized revenue and sustained lifetime value of your users. Okay, so these are the key things we think of when we're putting together this platform. Now, as you're doing this, you know that it's not going to be a very straightforward process. It seems pretty straightforward, right? You just plug in the ads, should be fine. But it's not a very straightforward process. There are a lot of bumps in the road. There are a lot of wrong turns you can take. It's not a straight path. So when you are selecting a platform, you have to ask yourself these three questions. First is, how can I get the best value and ROI for every impression that I serve? Secondly is, how can I tailor my monetization strategy as user behavior shifts? It's really important. And how can I balance the long-term user retention versus the gains in ad revenue? Okay, so it's that balance between, we're getting high CPMs today, but what's the user experience like? So that kind of balance. Now, we position Admob as a platform that can help you with all those things. It's flexible. It's a multi-lane highway to your destination. It gives you the control to maximize that revenue and secure the long-term growth while putting those users first. We have three pillars that we say underpin Admob. And the first one is to maximize the value of each impression. The second one is to tailor the ads experience with advanced segmentation controls. And the third one is to improve user retention with ad quality controls. And I'll go into a detail about those three pillars right now. So firstly, maximizing the value of each impression. So this is a great graph. I love this graph. It really helps you understand the setup, the back end, what it looks like under the hood. Admob as a mediation platform works with all of these providers. Now, a lot of people initially would think, because we're Google, it's basically Google demand. And that's true. Google demand makes up a significant amount of what comes through our network. Now, the Admob network up there, one of the three components is Google Ads, which if you're a client of Google from the buyer side, what we consider the buyer side, if you're buying ads, your inventory will be going through Google Ads. You'll be spending on Google Ads. We also connect to two other platforms within Google. One is DV360. And the third one is our authorized buyers and other demand-side platforms. As well as that, in addition to that, outside the Admob network, we also have SDK bidders, waterfall SDK bidders, and exchange platforms. Now, all of this can come through bidding, which you'll see with many other platforms that are out there. Most other platforms will allow bidding, as well as waterfall. Now, waterfall is something that a lot of other platforms have pulled back on, but it is something that we're continuing to do, and we will continue to do for the foreseeable future. We position ourselves as a publisher-first platform. So despite this not being, the favorite way for all advertisers and demand sources to interact with publishers, this is something we allow for our publishers today as well. Now, just talking about the different range of providers that we work with, sell-side monetization with inside Google is a fairly independent organization. Yes, we work with Google Ads, but we also work with all these other providers. Now, you can see a whole bunch there, and we're always adding more. So we have a range of new SDK bidders that have come over in the last 12 to 18 months. We have some hybrid bidders, and we also have support for some of our ad formats with these three partners here. Now, the important thing here is to note that we don't rely solely on Google demand. We have that diverse range of demand, which means if there is any, potential storm with Google Ads, for example, one of our other bidders will pick up the pace. Talking about maximizing revenue, I wanted to throw a case study at you. This is GameGo. Has anyone heard of GameGo before? Pretty significant player. They're one of our partners. They've been with us for a while. They were looking for a unique approach to maximize their revenue. They looked to us. They looked at Google Admob to do that. As a result to jumping in with Google Admob for mediation, they saw a 15% increase in revenue, 12% increase in ARPU, which is the average revenue per user, and a 10% increase in their eCPMs. Now, this is a great case study for us. Of course, it may not represent every publisher that comes on in every scenario, but this is a great case study, and it shows the value of, working with us versus other platforms. I'm going to move on to tailoring the ads experience with advanced segmentation and controls. Now, I won't jump too much into the detail on this one, just some high level. But essentially, we understand that there's different appetites with different publishers as well as different users in terms of their, I would say, their comfort level with ads. We have been, so Google Admob has been traditionally fairly conservative in our approach to ads, but we understand that for some publishers, you want to be more aggressive, you want to show more ads, and we get that. So we have introduced what we call high engagement ads controls. This allows you at the ad level to show those more aggressive, more in-your-face ads that some of our competitors are doing as well. Now, you don't have to use this, but we do give you the ability at the app level to switch this off or on for your users. Now, what this allows you to do is, if you look at the types of ad experiences there, your interstitial ads will be skippable after up to 12 seconds. Rewarded ads with up to 60-second reward grant time, and interstitial and rewarded ads with up to 3 steps to exit. They're what we consider our high engagement ads, which, again, typically we haven't done, but we do allow now. And it's just a flick of a button, really. Okay. We also allow you to optimize ad monetization with auction floors within mediation groups. Now, I won't dwell too much on this, realizing how much time I've got left. And we help you make new decisions with our A/B testing tools. And again, if I'm going too fast for any of this, I will give you my details at the end and we can follow up. I realize I've got about 12 minutes left. So I'm going to skip and I'm going to jump into improving control over ad quality and increasing autonomy for your overall brand safety. Now, I think first it's really important to distinguish between two things. One is ad quality, and the other is brand safety. When we're talking about ad quality, I'm talking about things like the design and the content elements of an ad that may negatively impact user engagement. When we're talking about brand safety, we're talking about the content category elements of the ad. So, for example, if you've got a child-directed app, you don't want to show ads that may be inappropriate for primary school-age students. So that's when we talk about brand safety. So we've got those two different things there. The main pain points we've heard from our publishers are when ads can be disruptive, when they seem forced, where there's forced click, where they're misleading, or where they're faulty and they just don't actually work. So we've introduced a range of controls to help safeguard your brand with ad testing and quality controls. Again, feel free to take a photo and I can also follow up with you later, but I'll skim through this one really quickly. We've got that end-to-end creative coverage to allow you to search for specific creatives that you find are not appropriate for your audience. Enhanced search capabilities, creative insights, advanced preventative controls. This allows you to block certain types of ads before they appear. And then real-time ad testing tool with no coding required. And also, in addition to being able to do this with our own demand, we can do this. We do have an ad review center that allows you to block ads coming from third parties. So, for example, if you've decided you wanted to integrate a third party into the Admob platform, we also have the ability to work with those SDK providers and block certain ads that they're providing you. Another great case study, this time on user engagement. This publisher has not been named for purposes. They're an American publisher, but they jumped in with us. They started using our ad quality controls, and they saw a 4% increase in a year-long LTV, an 88% increase in day 88 retention, and a 27% decrease in ANR. So that's something that really affects the crash rates of your app. Okay, so that's what they've seen from using those controls that I mentioned previously. Now, I'll jump through this and jump into H5 games because we've got about 9 minutes left. What are H5 games? Can I get a show of hands of anyone who knows what H5 games are? Excellent. Okay, great. So thank you for those three of you. For the rest of you, they're web-based games. They're super light, they can run on any platform. There's no install, not like an app. You can just run them on whatever is already installed, for example, your Chrome browser. And there's low overall development costs. Anyone can be a H5 gamer. It's very, very popular. We see that 42% of online gamers have played an H5 game over the past month. So it's pretty popular. And there are multiple ways to get involved in this. If you are a game developer, you can enter the H5 ecosystem this way. You can build and expand your website business through UA and monetization. Google can help there with UX and UX optimization and customization. You can provide game content to a game platform for a share of the earnings. We have a range of channel partners and AdSense for platform partners that we can connect you to for that. And then you can partner with app and traffic providers to share earnings as well. Now, you can monetize your H5 games with our latest products. The monetization tools that we have are as above. We've got 2 different ad formats that we use. The first one is interstitials, pre-roll and ad breaks placed by the developer. The second one is rewarded ads. These are user triggered. For example, they may get that to get an extra life, to get some extra coins, some limited skins, for example. The creatives are quite flexible, and the performance is backed. Whoops. Sorry about that. I get to see my funny background. Apologies, everyone. All right, I might have to wing this part. But essentially, H5 games are a great thing that you can monetize with AdSense. Now, as I mentioned previously, we've got those 2 platforms that are for web and video. AdSense is really the plug and play kind of self-driving car. So you can just connect into AdSense and everything will be set up for you and it'll just run as is. Ad Manager is more of the kind of manual car where there's obviously a lot of gears and a lot happening under the hood, but you've got a lot more control over what's happening there. Now, you'd use Ad Manager in a few different scenarios. One is if you wanted to connect with one of those channel partners that I was mentioning before, who may be able to put your game onto their platform. The second one is if, for example, you have your own connection with demand sources. Now, those demand sources could include, you might have a sales team who goes out direct to specific advertisers that you want running on your H5 games. Or, for example, you may connect to different demand-side platforms, such as Mintegral. Okay. So, strongly recommend AdSense for the plug-and-play option. And that's probably the most likely for most of you here, unless you do have your own direct sales team. And strongly recommend, of course, Admob for any apps that you have where you run your games. Now, thank you very much. I apologize. Oh, no, I'm able to get back on. Very briefly, I think we've got about 5 minutes left anyway. So I'm quite happy to open up for questions. And if you're not comfortable raising your hand here, which you can always come and chat with me later as well. So did anyone have any questions about either Admob, AdSense, or Ad Manager, monetizing apps, or monetizing H5 games? Yeah. No worries.
Test? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any way to see what the median user's experience is? Because my experience is the only ads that ever get served is Kingshot.
The only ads that ever get served is what, sorry?
The only ads getting served is Kingshot. And
oh, I see.
How do I see what the median user base is actually seeing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I don't know why you'd only be receiving one ad. It could be
targeting.
Could be targeting. Could be if you're sitting behind a VPN, if you're in a certain network. So, for example, now I can't say for sure, but for example, we want to protect you against potential ad fraud. So, if you are sitting with a publisher, for example, you might be seeing a very limited range of ads. But if you're at home and doing it on your home phone or something, is that?
No, I'm not. I know why I'm getting my ads, but that
Yeah.
means I can't get a sense of what the average user is seeing.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. So there may be a way you can opt out of ad choices so that your data isn't used to actually
What about
target you.
regional though? Like if I wanted to see what the median mid-American user is seeing day to day.
Yeah.
Or if I've got lower retention in an area and I want to check that there's not some weird ad activity happening over there.
That's a good question. Okay, so you've got, as an example, you've got low retention in Indonesia, let's say, and you want to see what sort of ads are being served in Indonesia. That's a really good question. I think there definitely is a way to do that. I don't have the tech expertise to tell you, but I can tell who you're working for. So I will tell Silva. I'll get back to Silva and give her some information on how you can do that. Yeah, but thanks. Good question. Anything else? Silva.
This question is probably not asking on my behalf, but for publishers that are starting in the ad monetization journey, what would you recommend them to do as a first step? Like, for publishers that want to do ad monetization, and where should they start?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? So because sell-side is obviously part of Google, I would recommend setting up on Google Ads, setting up on Admob, but only running Google Ads to start. So that's the really simple plug-and-play way. We do have a number of developers, especially those I should mention. This is something we talked about yesterday, but extra information for you. We do have a number of app developers who have kids-only apps, who are only comfortable with sitting on the Admob network, and they may add someone like Super Awesome, for example, but they're generally that cautious that they will just stick with Admob ads, the Admob network. So that includes Google Ads, DV360, and the authorized buyers. So that is, based on the experience of publishers and what they tell me, that is probably the safest start. Then I'd say once you get into that, you'd be looking at adding SDK bidders, etc., adding extra demand sources. But the start would be just using the Admob network on Admob, which would just give you the kind of safer ads, the safer creatives, and one that I can confirm that 100% we can do those preventative blocks before an ad is displayed. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. We have about 30 seconds, but I'm not sure if we're going to get kicked out straight away. Is that right? Yeah, okay. One more minute. Okay, well, we got one more minute. Do ask a question if you need to. Otherwise, I'm just going to stand right out there at the end of this session, and please feel free to come up and ask me any question. And if you prefer, I can just give you my email. You can ask me questions on email as well. All right. So thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate your time this morning.